Tape Deck Media.
Well, hello there. Welcome to Panel Picks Podcast. This is issue number 6. I'm your co-host, Dan Bublich Jr. With me is our other co-host, Jeremy Plum. How's it going, Jeremy?
Great, honestly. How has it been going with you?
I mean, for the most part, I can't complain.
Yeah.
I can't complain. I will say this. I'm a little sad because I haven't had as much time to read comic books.
Yeah.
That's always a hindrance. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but my life is changing a little bit. My living situation's changing, and so I've been looking for apartments and busy with that. So I haven't between that and comedy and work, I just haven't had much time to do much reading, and that sucks. But I did read this morning. I did read the final issue of Slow Burn, and that was pretty good.
Nice.
So, and I did manage to get to Cobra Commander number 2. So
okay, well, there's that.
So I did get a couple, and I'm probably going to spend the afternoon reading some comics too. That's my goal. Although I've got a whole bunch of comics that I'm going through. I got to get rid of because again, I'm trying to downsize a little bit.
Yeah,
and so I'm going through a bunch of comics that I got to get rid of, that I want to get rid of. And I'm thinking about there's a toy show coming up, and I might rent a table at the toy show because I also have some collectibles I want to get rid of too. So I might do that. So my afternoon might actually be spent pulling all the comics I want to get rid of out of my collection and start getting them ready to sell.
Nice. Well, definitely keep us posted on that. I'd like to hear more about what it takes to rent a table and all that.
Well, from what I've seen, it's like $50 a table or something like that. I gotta look into more details. I'm sure there's more details to it, but I haven't looked too far into it yet. But I'll definitely keep posted on that. Nice. I will say this, my plan, and I don't know if this is a good plan, but because of the way I collect comics, mostly it's stuff that I was reading or trying to read, whatever. I have a lot of runs because most of them are miniseries. So I'm thinking about, instead of selling them individually, I'm going to sell them as sets and go that route.
Yeah. I mean, that literally, like I said, I was at Elite Comics in Kansas City. I was telling you right before we hit record.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a beautiful shop in Overland Park in Kansas City. The guy was super nice, told me everything about what was going on. He just had stacks of rows. He goes, I hadn't gone through all those books, but they're 50 cents each. I've got almost the entire John Bryan run of Doom Patrol and Uncle Sam and the Freedom Fighters, except for one issue each on both.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was like cool. I think that's the fun part. Like me and two other people were also going through those books, just trying to find runs, and that's the most exciting part.
I think so too. I think that's for me too. Like that's some of the comics, some of the runs that I do have is because I found them like in a dollar bin or whatever, and found most of them. And it's like I just forget what series it was, but I found most of them, and I was like, well, most of these I got for $1 a piece. So this one comic I have to pay $4 for, no big deal. Yep. And actually, that just happened. That was, if you listen to the podcast regularly, on the last episode or 2 episodes ago, you heard me talking about that. I picked up the first 3 issues of Come Together Santana, which is just a mini series. And I picked them up for $1 a piece. Well, Taryn, who is that works at the comic book shop that I frequent, she listens to the podcast or watches it on YouTube, and heard that, and they had issue number 4, and so she pulled it for me.
Nice.
And and it was $4, but I was like, I don't care. I paid $1 a piece for the other ones, and now I have the complete set. So I have the complete run.
Well, hi, Taryn. Thank you for helping Dan out. Thanks for finding Zatanna.
She also gave me a recommendation. I tried to start reading it this morning, but I had some stuff. I had to go met with another friend for breakfast. And this is funny because he's a comic, but he's also into comic books. And we just were talking about comics, and he said, oh yeah, I started getting into the James Bond that Garth Ennis has been doing.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you're a Bond guy, because most of the comics that I'm trying to sell, almost a third of the comics that are what I'm trying to get rid of are James Bond comics.
Really?
Yeah. So he was like, send me that list. I might be interested. So I might be selling quite a bit of those to him. So that worked out great.
I didn't know that I didn't know that James Bond comics were around before recently.
Well, I mean, they've always been around, I think, but like here recently and in modern times, they really started coming back in 2016, 2017 through
Really?
Dynamite. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yep. Dynamite
Yeah.
Entertainment. And I not that I was ever like I liked the movies. I'm not like an uber James Bond fan or anything, but I was like, oh, this is cool. I'll
Yeah.
start, collect. And then next thing you know, here's a miniseries, and then the collector in me is like, well, I gotta have them all. And now I have almost 100 James Bond comics.
Jeez. So can I tell you, I think I've discovered a new thing that I want to collect that is real dangerous. I went to a comic store in Omaha called Dragon's Lair, and I was just walking around. I was buying a birthday gift for somebody, and then I saw like their old back issues, and I found these two. They're Archie Comic Digest. Like this one specifically is the DC Blue Label special. There's 71 issues of these, and then only 24 that show original stories. And I was like, I could do this. I could. Right. This is easy, expensive but easy.
Well, it's always expensive.
It's always expensive, but like what these are is like what we're talking about in like our second or first episode of the podcast is just I want the big two comic companies to maybe reprint or write original stories of their lesser known characters and put them in Archie style sized books like the digest and sell them at grocery stores. And this has Challenger of the Unknown, an old pre-DC Captain Marvel story from Fawcett Comics, and Neil Adams Neil Adams art of the Spectre on here, plus the Silver Age Sandman, who gets no play. And an Aquaman story that is there, and a couple of Legion of Superheroes that are kind of fun. And the back is like the editor giving context for these Legionnaire stories. They go like, yeah, it's actually a reprint of an older book that almost used the exact same dialogue, but the writer did that at the time, so I guess we have to deal with it. And that's so cool to me. Like the history and context of this is really, really cool. So I might be picking up more of these.
It's always in trouble when there's a new obsession, but it's easy to get obsessed with things.
It's so easy.
Easy. And speaking of easy to get obsessed, there is a lot of great stuff coming out this week.
And a lot of news that we missed.
We did miss a lot of news because we had to record 2 episodes back to back. So
yep.
A lot of stuff happened.
So really, what we did this week is I kept texting you links to go like, we missed this one. Oh, this is a real big one we missed. Neat. So let's quickly go through them.
Yeah, let's do a quick recap of what we missed.
DC Comics is not re-released. Well, they're releasing their comics now on Wednesday instead of Tuesday. And from
which I mean,
fine.
Most comic book shops still don't release them until Wednesday anyway.
Yeah. And those that do, you have a risk of like getting spoiled on the new DC book because someone's posting the cool panel a day early. And it's like, okay, cool, great. So it's honestly great. It was just something that needed to be done. Speaking of DC re-releasing, DC and Marvel are re-releasing their omnibuses of the DC Marvel crossover. And this is the 3rd time I'm trying to get it. So I put my name and it's in a poll sheet. It's releasing this August.
Nice. That'll be a fun read.
It will be. Another DC news. We have a new look at the new Superman logo, and Superman Legacy got renamed to just Superman 2025. So looks great. Especially if you like Kingdom Come, it is the Kingdom Come logo. And looks great. That is all the DC news. And then the biggest news that we missed that you and I were kicking ourselves to the point of almost making an addendum to the previous episode.
Yeah, not even an addendum. We almost just did a bonus episode.
Oh, yeah. Like the biggest news ever, like EC. Okay, little bit of context, a little bit of history. EC Comics, we had Marvel, we had DC, we had Fawcett, we had EC Comics. They produced horror, they produced crime books. They were the original producers of Mad before DC bought it. Like, they were a big deal. And like nowadays you could see them reprinted in Dark Horse books.
Mm-hmm.
But Oni Press bought the rights to EC Comics, and they're remaking new books, not just like old Tales of the Crypt, but like Savage Universe, and like just new books with these new talent behind it, and it looks so cool.
Yeah, that'll be a good time. And that's funny. Yeah. Speaking of Oni, I mentioned earlier that Taryn recommended a book to me that I hadn't got to read, and I just want to mention the book is an Oni Press book. It's called Jill and the Killers. So
yes, I heard about that one too.
So that's the book she recommended to me, and I got the first issue. I haven't read it yet, but that's on my agenda.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Tell me how it is, because I might pick that up on a trade. But yeah, that EC Comics is the biggest news. Here's the hoping Mad Magazine comes back.
Yeah, that would be pretty epic if after. I mean, but do you think they'll bring it back?
I want it so bad.
I know you want it so bad, but do you think they'll do it?
Yes, I think.
Okay. Manifest that.
I think there's a spot in the market for really cool comedy. Stand-up is more popular than ever, and like Brian Posehn was the editor-in-chief of Mad Magazine on the final year it was active, and that was a great pick. I do think it's coming back. If not from DC, it's going to be from EC. I'm hoping, I'm praying, but I want it back.
Oh man, well I hope so. That would be fun if it came back. But this is a hot week for comics.
Hot week. So that's all the news. Hot week.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming out.
Can we start with Marvel?
All right, we can start with Marvel.
Okay.
We're gonna start with Marvel today.
Do you like X-Men? I don't, but I'm gonna get Ultimate X-Men because it looks good.
So I say it all the time. I don't read a lot of like superhero comic books. I love the X-Men cartoon. That's where I know most of the X-Men from. Whatever. So, but I know Ultimate X-Men. That's gonna be a hot pick this week.
Yep, and here's the thing. Here's what got me into it. I don't like X-Men very much. I've tried for years. I've put the work in. But the Ultimate line has just been solidly good the entire time.
That's what I've heard. So far, people who've been reading the Ultimate titles have said they're really good.
And this one is, instead of focusing on like Cyclops, Wolverine, Jean Grey, all the big names, we're focusing on Armor, and who's like maybe a C tier at best, and it's written and drawn, and I love books that are written and drawn by one person, Peach Momoko, and the art looks so good. It looks so delicate but strong. It looks like a good book. That's it. Mm-hmm. Number one pick. If you get nothing else this week, get Ultimate X-Men if you can find it.
Yeah, if you can find it. Hopefully that's already on your pull list.
Black Panther sold out before he even got dropped. Mm-hmm. So
do you see too? There's a Weapon X-Men #1 coming out too. There's a lot of #1s coming out. Yeah, you got Weapon X-Men #1, the spectacular Spider-Man #1.
Oh, Spider-Man. Okay, that'd be kind of cool. Yep. That'd be cool. That is Miles Morales and Peter Parker. For those that don't know, it's just those two together, and that's a fun book. We have What If Alien #1?
Yeah, Alien What If.
That's the first What If book that is not tied to mainline
superheroes.
Yeah. That's a good one. It's written into it's co-written, by the way. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Co-written by the actor from Alien, the guy who plays
Paul Reiser,
yeah. And it's what if his character lived. And I like Alien. I love the first movie. I think the second one's fine. And I'd read that like time and time again. That sounds really fun.
Yeah, that looks like it would be. That looks like a good book.
Yeah. We also have a new #1 from Marvel, Miss Marvel. The next, let me double check. I just had it. I had my list up.
Must-haves #1 is coming out as well.
Must-haves. Yeah, that one's interesting because it showed the old cover of Deadpool Spider-Man. and it looks like it's a collection of older books, and like, hey, you should be picking these books up. So that's kind of fun, and it's free. So that's cool.
Oh, that's probably
Yeah.
So,
yep. Miss Marvel Mutant Menace #1 is also this week. I love Miss Marvel a lot, but it's also written by Iman Vellani, the actress that plays Miss Marvel, after her stint with the miniseries. So she's writing a new book, and I'm really excited for that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of good Marvel books this
like
week.
Said.
Yeah.
Well, and moving on now, let's move on to DC quick.
DC,
yep.
We have
I'm excited.
#7.
Kneel Before Zod is coming out.
Kneel Before Zod. Yeah.
Yep. And which one did you just say? Blue Beetle?
Blue Beetle is coming out this week, and I think that looks really cool. Birds of Prey, number 7.
Number 7.
And I love Mark Waid a lot. So I've always been excited for Shazam. It's been a great book. That team is fantastic. It's the same writer and artist that's been doing Batman, Superman. But this Shazam number 9 has the Creeper, which is one of my favorite DC characters because he's just a little goofball and just a piece of garbage, and I love him.
There's a new Batman coming out too.
Yep, new Batman.
Yep. First Night. Batman, the Batman First Night.
Yes, so that one is really cool. If you like Dan Jurgens, who did a lot of fantastic Superman runs. He did the Death of Superman, Return of Superman. He did Superman and Lois comic book for Rebirth. Honestly, his work's fantastic. But this takes place specifically 1939's Batman, where he had a gun, and it's mostly Bill Finger's work with some input from Bob Kane. Those who know.
Those who know.
Okay, quick history lesson. Bob Kane used to say for years that he created Batman, and he was the sole name on it. His name was huge. It was big. He had ghostwriters write for him. The only thing he came up with was the name Batman. Batman was originally a blonde guy with bat wings. Bill Finger came up with everything you think of with Batman. And so this era, crime noir-ish, maybe a bit more violent. Miniseries Black Label, that's gonna be a really good DC book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Honestly, that is unless there's anything for you, that is the only DC book I'm interested in.
DC is a little light, not compared. Like I said, Marvel's got
everything.
Yeah. Image is a little light too this week.
Little bit, yeah.
I'm excited though because I'm a book that I've really been digging. Crave #4 is coming out.
Yes, I saw that.
Image side.
Yeah,
there is a new #1 coming out though. The Last Mermaid. That looks kind of interesting.
Yeah, I saw that. That was kind of cool. Do you have anything like what drew you to that one?
No, just the cover art because it looks like it's interesting because it's the Last Mermaid, but like the cover that I'm seeing looks like a mech warrior.
Okay. All right. I'm down.
Which is interesting. I don't know what that art has to do with it, but that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
But it just says a lone mermaid roams an endless wasteland on a quest beyond reason. To press ever onward, she must survive the interminable stretches between tiny pockets of water and the roaming bands of cybernetic cannibals.
Okay.
And a fearsome mutant beast. So I mean that could be fun.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar. It's Derek Kirk Kim is the writer and artist. So not really familiar with their work, but I don't know. I don't know if I'll pick this up. I'll probably flip through and see what the art looks like, but I don't know. Like I said, the cover did catch my attention on that.
Nice. Another indie book I'm looking at was by American Mythology. It's Monster Tag Team, The Boogeyman versus Scarecrow. I'm gonna be honest, I read nothing of the description. I want to go in blind. I love trashy horror, and this feels exactly what I want. I'm down. I'm down to clown. Let's just go. Let's get weird with this. This is what I want.
Yeah. Well, and there's looks like some fun indie books coming out.
Yeah.
Frank Frazetta's Death Dealer 2099 #1. That looks fun.
That looks cool.
I don't know. I'm not a big like horror guy, but some of the horror books always do look pretty fun.
Horror is one of those things where it is such a wide variety. You can get literally thrilling, or you can just get dumb, goofy garbage, and the whole gambit of it is a lot of fun, and people get to really experiment, and that's really cool. I
know you like Godzilla. Did you see it?
I do. Best of Destroya #1.
Yeah, best. I love that Best of Destroya.
Destroya is probably one of my favorite of the millennium. Not a millennium. Heisei era. Monsters. It might be millennium. It's millennium. And no, it's not. It's Heisei era, and it's really cool. I think that's an anthology where it's just grabbing some older stories based off what I saw with that. Still a good read, especially if you're new to kaiju. Go pick that up, because Destroya is probably the coolest monster in Godzilla's lineup, and so it's dope.
Should be a fun. Then it should be a fun one. If you been around for a while into comics, you're familiar with Lady Death. Lady Death has a new
#1.
Yeah, it's Demonic Omens, written by Brian Pulido, and Mark McLean.
So, for those that don't know Lady Death, what is Lady Death?
Lady Death is, honestly, I haven't read a lot of Lady Death, but I know I'm familiar with the character only because I've been into comics for a long time. And anytime you go, like what we were talking about, going to a comic book shop and just searching through comics, you probably have seen a Lady Death comic in those back issues. I really don't know much about her, because I think I read a few issues back in the day, maybe, but never really was my thing. So I honestly don't know. I just know that Lady Death has been around for a long time.
It is up there with like Cerebus and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, with one of those characters that are just always in the pull boxes.
So it'll be interesting. Like I said, you caught me off guard there. You're like, well, tell people about it. Well,
sorry.
Man. I'm just calling out comics that I know people are probably going to be interested in, because obviously you have a character like that has been around so long and they're still making new books. That's
fun.
All. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah, those are the new comics, unless I'm missing something.
Well, there's some other independent stuff. Yeah. This looks like it could be fun. This is because we were talking about Oni Press earlier. Night People #1.
That did look cool. Yeah.
That looks really good. Barry Guilford. It looks really good. I just had like a little quick summary of it. Night People is a pulsating roadmap of American subconsciousness where neon lit southern nights give way to lipstick, sweat, and blood. And the odd, innocent, and evil are all fellow travelers down an interstate of dark, elusive dreams. And it's an adapted from Guilford's acclaimed novel by breakout writer Chris Condon. And he wrote That Texas Blood, the Enfield Gang, two of my favorite comics. So I'm probably gonna pick this up. Yeah.
Hey, did you see Torpedo 1936? It's from the artist of 100 Bullets, and it's about old Italian mob family just kind of going at it. That felt like it was so far up your alley that they hand delivered it to you.
I think I missed that one. What was that one?
So it's Torpedo. I'm sorry, not 1939. I was thinking Batman again. 1972.
It's 1972. When did that come out?
It's coming out this week.
Oh, I didn't see it. Oh.
Yeah. It's from the co-creator and artist of 100 Bullets, and it looks like it's about a couple of New York Italian mobs family that are just fighting each other. That again, it feels like it was hand delivered to your doorstep.
Guess what's happening? I'm putting it on my list.
Your pull list? Yeah.
Hopefully my comic book shop has it. That's the one that when it comes, my shop, is great. Nothing against them. They're a comic shop that, if the person who kind of well, I shouldn't say kind of. If the person who runs the comic side of things or the comics, if she had her way, it would be way more independence. Because like me, her and I both like independence more than the mainstream stuff. But that said, she doesn't always have full say on the thing. So independence can be hit or miss.
I mean, rather
at my
like
shop, but
yeah, you rather know about it or you don't, and that's like one of those things with independent books, and that's a bummer. But yeah, that book looks really cool. And 100 Bullets had really great art. So like, yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good week. My list is already. I think I have 10 to 15 books on my weekly pull list now, especially now because I just found 2 more books that I want to add.
I'm trying to keep it to 5.
5 a week? Oh man, I wish I could keep it to 5 a week.
I'm trying.
I tell you what, I wouldn't have as many comic books as I do now if I would limit. I did a better job of limiting.
Well, I'm also moving, so I was like, I need to make sure that everything. Yeah.
Well,
Relatable. So I was like, we're both moving, and the backgrounds are going to be changing soon. So.
Exactly. Well, I will say this before we get out of here, before we wrap up. I do want to mention this because it's getting to be. I mean, they're year round, but when you get into the summertime, it's getting to be springtime. It's getting to be summertime. We're about to enter Conomania.
Yep.
Oh, dude. And I was just looking at some of the upcoming cons. There's actually a couple cons coming up this next weekend. And I thought it would be, I'm going to mention a couple. I'm thinking about, depending, I don't know. I got to look at my schedule.
See this weekend.
But this coming up this weekend, there's, I seen the Colorado Cosmic Con in Colorado Springs. That looks like that could be fun. You got there. I mean, there's a ton of them. You got Power Comic-Con down in Florence, South Carolina. There's Planet Comic-Con, Kansas City this coming weekend. Man, there's a lot of cons coming up this weekend.
Elite Comics has a table there, so go check them out. They're real cool. There were some real nice people out there. But yeah, I wish I stayed in Kansas City another weekend. I would have gone to that con in a heartbeat.
Yeah. That's one thing I'm going to try to do more of is I still go to quite a few cons, but I know there's a big, is it what, Fan Expo Denver, I think it's called, coming up, and that's in July. And my buddy who his name's Brett Allen, my buddy Brett Allen, he has his own podcast called The Brett Allen Show. And he usually gets media passes for those things. And he already told me, he's like, hey, I applied for a media pass. If I get my passes, you get one. So nice. I'll probably get to go hang out down at the Fan Expo. So that'll be pretty cool. So,
I will let you in on a secret, Dan. I've never gone to a convention.
What?
As a kid, I couldn't afford it. And then as an adult, it just kind of always passed me.
What?
Like I wanted to go to NebCon, and every year I keep missing NebCon.
Well,
I've always wanted to go.
You and I, we need to go to a con together. We don't have to plan. We don't have to plan it right on this podcast.
No,
we don't want to take everybody's time up, but we need to get together and plan this. You and I are going to go. We're going to a con, and then we'll get a bunch of our stickers and we'll pass them out.
Yeah. One piece of news I do want to get before we go. I was on the amazing Oma Pod, which is kind of a news podcast in Omaha.
You were on a few podcasts. You should mention them all. You should mention them all.
I was on Morning Stand Up with Stacey K. I was on Panel Picks every Tuesday, and I was on Oma Pod. I was on 2 episodes of Oma Pod, actually. First episode, we talk a lot about like my history with the Blackstone Theater and how I helped it with being an artistic director for stand up. And then the second half, we talked about the me watching from the outsider perspective, watching Tape Deck Media get born, and like your mission about helping independent comics and comedians. And then we talked about Stan Lee's writing method, and we talked about the history of comic books. And he asked me point blank, is like, hey, you sound like you know a lot about comic books and you have a passion for it. Have you ever thought about writing? And I love writing comic books, and I love writing so much that I didn't think I was smart enough. I didn't think I had an encyclopedic knowledge of writing. I just didn't. I really didn't think because I went from writing poetry in college to writing nothing. And then I realized for the last 9 years, I've been writing nonstop, just with
Yeah,
jokes.
yeah, exactly. You know, it's funny. Growing up, I always wanted to be a writer. Like that was always kind of passionate about writing. Excelled in language arts, liberal arts, all that stuff. And my aunt Renee, shout out Aunt Renee, was very supportive and encouraging. And I was out there. I was visiting her a couple of years ago, and she asked me. She was like, "How come you never did pursue writing?" And I was like, I have, but I also perform my writing. I was like, all the stuff that I do now, stand-up wise, is like I write all this. So like I am writing, but I'm performing as well. But like you, I got a couple comic book ideas on the slate. In fact, on my goal board. I had it on my goal board last year and didn't get to it, but on my goal board for 2024 is to write the first draft of my comic book.
Nice. Well, I promised Tony, the host of that podcast, to meet me in a year. And I will I'll have a script for the first issue of anything in a year. So I guess keep in touch. I'll see if we're going to do it.
We're going to do it. We're going to do it. Yeah. And as always, we want to thank you guys for listening. Make sure you share the show with your comic book buddies. We hope that what we're doing here, you're finding useful when you go into the comic book shop every week. And if you're already an avid collector, some of the, when we talk about throwbacks, we hope that this is all being helpful and useful and you're having a good time listening to this. If you have, we haven't talked about any indie books in a little while, but if you have any indie books that you'd like us to check out, send us an email, panelpixpodcast@gmail.com. You can hit us up at all our social or Panel Picks Pod on all social media. Hit us up with those indie books. We definitely want to talk about that stuff. The goal is to, give people a useful guide for new comic day, but also highlight some of the super independent comic book creators and the community. So send us those recommendations. We'll try to get to them. If you want to keep up with me, you can find me on all social media, Debub Comedy, my website, debubcomedy.com. For all my upcoming dates, comedy dates, and public appearances are on that website.
Nice. Yeah, and if you want to find me, I am Plum Jeremy on all the social medias. My website is Jeremy Plum Comedy, and that has all my information. And again, we really hope that you guys like this, and please tell people and give us a review. And we'll love this.
Reviews would definitely help. If you listen to this on a regular basis, if you could give us a 5-star review and a rating, that would be huge. It's going to help other people find this podcast, because that's we want to try to grow this community. That's what we're trying to do here. So thanks for listening. And as always, keep supporting your local comic book shops.
All right.
And we'll see you next week, you panel pickers.
Woo.
This has been a Tape Deck Media production. Thank you for listening.